Night had swallowed Nocturne Vale Cemetery whole. Fog rolled low and thick, crawling between the graves like it was alive, breathing, watching. Red lanterns hung from iron poles, swaying slowly, their light weak and tired, casting long shadows over names that should have been forgotten centuries ago. Old names, cursed names, royal names. And right there at the center of it all, a young woman knelt in the dirt. Her knees were soaked through, her hands raw and shaking as she wiped cold stone with a torn sleeve. She wasn't dressed for the night. Her coat was thin, cracked at the seams, her shoes split open at the toes. The wind cut straight through her like she wasn't even there. But she kept cleaning the tomb carefully, gently, the way someone cleans a face they love. She wasn't crying loudly. No screams, no drama, just silent tears slipping down her cheeks, freezing before they could fall. This wasn't grief. This was survival. A small baby slept against her arm, wrapped in a worn blanket, his tiny chest rising and falling softly. From her bag, half open in the dirt, a packet of nappies stuck out like a quiet confession. She wasn't here to mourn a queen. She was here because she had nowhere else left to go. Her lips trembled as she whispered to the stone, not a prayer, not a plea, but a broken truth. I came home because I don't know where else to live. The runes carved into the tomb flickered for half a second, so faint she didn't even notice. But the ground did. The air did. Something old stirred beneath the stone. Behind her, footsteps pressed into the fog, slow, heavy, not rushed. Each step landed like a decision already made. The fog split open as a tall figure emerged, black coat lined with silver thread that caught the lantern light. His face was calm, almost empty, but his eyes carried a weight that only centuries could build. In his hand was a single white jasmine flower, fresh, untouched by frost. He stopped just a few steps behind her. The air dropped colder. The lantern stilled. Even the fog seemed to hold its breath. His voice cut through the night, low and sharp, freezing everything it touched. "This is my queen's tomb," he said. "You don't belong here." The woman froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The baby shifted in his sleep and murmured a strange word, soft and wrong, like it didn't belong to this time. "Cold crown." The man's face didn't change at first. Then his hand tightened around the flower, just slightly. His eyes darkened, not red, not glowing, but empty in a way that meant death followed silence. "Who are you?" he asked again, slower now. The woman turned, terrified, her knees giving way as she clutched the baby closer. "I swear I didn't mean to trespass," she said, voice cracking. "I don't even know why I came, I just kept dreaming of this place, of the lanterns, of her." As she shifted, a chain slipped from under her shirt. A small, ancient locket swung free. The moment it caught the lantern light, the runes on the tomb ignited, glowing deep crimson. The ground trembled. The man stepped back, shock finally breaking through his control. His voice dropped to a whisper heavy with disbelief. "That seal," the woman looked down at it, confused, scared. "It was given to me," she said. "I don't know why, I was told to never take it off. They said it would keep me alive." The man stared at her like the world had cracked open, because that seal was not a symbol of royalty. It was proof of witness, and only one person had ever been trusted with it. The fog thickened again, swallowing the lantern light as distant bells began to ring beneath the earth. Somewhere deep below the tomb, something ancient had awakened, and for the first time in 300 years, the vampire king felt fear that had nothing to do with war. The king did not move closer, but the air around him did, like the whole cemetery leaned in to listen. Myra's fingers shook around the locket as if it had suddenly become heavier. "I didn't steal it," she said fast, voice thin with panic. "I don't know your queen. I don't know your rules. I just needed somewhere the streets wouldn't take my baby." The vampire king's eyes flicked to the small bundle in her arm, then back to the seal. His face stayed blank, but his stillness felt sharp, like a blade kept out of sight. Myra swallowed, throat dry. The fog stuck to her lashes. "Because it's the only thing that ever answered me," she said. Then she hated how small it sounded, so she forced the truth out harder. "I kept dreaming of this place. Same grave, same red lantern, same white flower. I wake up with mud on my knees like I've walked here in my sleep. I didn't believe it at first. Thought I'd lost my mind. Then my baby started saying words in his sleep that Bobbies don't say." The king's eyes dropped to the child. The baby's cheek was pressed into Myra's coat, tiny breath misting. The king lifted one hand, palm up, not touching, not yet. "Speak the vow," he ordered, calm as winter. Myra's mind went blank, then the words came anyway, sliding out as if they lived behind her tongue. "By the crown that chose the night," she whispered, "I keep what I witness. I keep it in flesh, not paper. I keep it until the one who must hear it can." The last line trembled. The runes on the tomb flared like breathing embers. The king's face did not change, but his eyes did. They went distant, as if he'd been dragged back to another night, another death. Myra's knees started to give. "Look, I'm sorry," she rushed, voice shaking now. "I didn't come to mess with your dead. I came because my life is falling apart. Because I'm scared and I'm tired, and every time I shut my eyes I'm back here, scrubbing this stone like if I make it clean enough, someone will finally listen." Her voice cracked. "I've been sleeping in a laundrette with a baby that coughs if the air gets too cold. I've been hiding from a man who thinks love means breaking bones." She tried to blink tears away, and only made the cold sting worse. The king's gaze sharpened. "Names," he said, "not kind, not cruel, just final." Myra tasted metal and shame. "Grant Mercer," she admitted. "He was my boyfriend. He said he'd protect me. What he meant was he'd own me. When I tried to leave, he put me into a wall. When I ran to the police, they asked what I'd done to make him angry." She let out a bitter laugh. "I kept thinking if I could just keep quiet, it would stop. It didn't. It got worse. So I tried to text my brother. One wrong digit, that's it. One wrong number and my message went to you." The king's pupils widened, then narrowed like he was reading the shape of her fear. "What did you send?" he asked. Myra's fingers trembled as she pulled her phone from her pocket. The screen was cracked. She turned it toward him. The message was short, plain, desperate. "Please. He broke my ribs. I'm trapped. I've got a baby. I can't breathe. Help me." Her stomach twisted with humiliation. "I meant it for my brother," she whispered. "I thought you'd ignore it, but you replied." A silence dropped so heavy it felt like the fog stopped moving. Then the king spoke, and his voice was softer, more dangerous. "That message," he said, "was not a wrong number. That sentence is a royal distress call. It is older than your city. The words you used are coded. You shouldn't know them." Myra blinked, stunned. "I don't," she said. "I just typed what I felt." The king stared at her as if she was a door he did not want to open. "Yet you opened it," he said. "And the seal answered you, not me." Myra's baby stirred. One tiny hand pushed out of the blanket. The air around his fingers shimmered like heat above a road in summer, only colder. The king noticed. His jaw tightened. "He's waking early," he said, and for the first time Myra heard real fear in him. "That is not normal." Myra clutched the child. "He's hungry," she said, "always hungry. He cries like he's starving even when I feed him. Sometimes he goes quiet and just listens." The king's gaze snapped to the tomb. "Because something here is calling back," he murmured, and it sounded like he hated the idea. He stepped forward, then stopped at the edge of the rune light. Myra realized he was not crossing it, not because he could not, but because he would not, like the queen's grave still commanded him. "Show me your wrist," he said. Myra hesitated, then pulled her sleeve back. Under grime and old bruises was a faint mark she had never understood, a pale imprint shaped like a tiny crown split down the middle. The king's face went white with shock. "That is a witness brand," he said. "It means the queen trusted you with something she could not trust her own court with." Myra's hands shook harder. "Why me?" she asked. "I'm nobody." The king's smile was not a smile, it was grief wearing teeth. "That is exactly why," he said. "Because nobodies do not get counted, they do not get watched closely, they vanish. And the world calls it ordinary." He looked down at her baby again, and for a beat his eyes softened. "She chose a mother," he murmured. "Not a noble, not a court lady, a woman who would bleed and still stand up." Myra flinched at the word mother. "Don't," she snapped, sudden anger breaking through fear. "Don't talk like you know me. Nobody knows me." The king's gaze lifted, calm and sharp. "I know your bruises are old," he said. "I know your ribs healed wrong because you kept working through pain. I know you count coins before you buy milk. I know you sleep sitting up so your baby can breathe. I know you didn't cry at that grave for my queen. You cried because you were running out of road." Myra's eyes stung. She wanted to deny it, but denial felt like another cage. "What now?" she asked. "Do you arrest me, kill me, take my baby?" The king's eyes flashed silver for a heartbeat. "If I wanted you dead," he said, "you would already be dust on that stone." He lifted his hand and the cold air around him tight. "But I cannot leave you here." Myra's stomach dropped. "Because I'm a threat," she whispered. "Because you think I'm pretending." The king took a slow breath he did not need. "Because the moment the tomb lit up," he said, "every watcher in this city felt it." Myra's skin prickled. "Watcher," she echoed. The king's voice went flat. "The Shadow Court," he said it like a curse. "They killed my queen and then pretended to mourn her. They keep the city calm by feeding it fear in small bites. They punish men like Grant only when it suits them. They let women like you fall through cracks because cracks are useful." Myra's mouth opened, but no sound came. She thought of the police officer who smirked when she showed her bruises. She thought of the landlord who said, "Be grateful, at least you've got a roof." She thought of how the world always found a way to excuse cruelty when cruelty was convenient. "Not you," the king said, and his stare cut deeper. "The seal, the brand, the shard of her memory hidden in living blood." Myra shook her head. "Memory shard," she repeated like it was a joke. "That's not real." The king's gaze slid to the tomb, and the runes pulsed again like it heard its own name. "It is real," he said, "and they will rip you open to get it." Myra's arms tightened around her baby so hard the child squeaked in sleep. Panic rose like vomit. "I didn't ask for this," she said. "I didn't choose any of it." The king's eyes locked on hers. "You are right," he said. "So I will give you one choice now, the first real choice you've had in a long time." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small silver coin stamped with a crown. He flicked it into the air. It did not fall. It hovered, spinning, catching lantern light. Then it snapped toward the ground, drawing a thin circle of pale frost around Myra's boots. The fog bent away from it, as if the circle had teeth. Myra stared at the ring like it was a trick. "Why would you help me?" she demanded. "You don't even know who I am." The king's voice dropped. "I know enough," he said. "I know my queen trusted you with words only two people on earth ever knew." Myra's breath hitched. "Two," she whispered. The king nodded once, eyes dark. "Me," he said, "and her." The king finally said his name, quiet like a warning. "Darius." Hearing it made the lantern flames dip as if the night itself bowed. He watched Myra's face for the lie that never came. "Step into the circle," he told her. "It will hide your heartbeat from them." Myra hesitated, then stepped in. The cold eased and her baby sighed calmer, like the dark had wrapped him up. Then far beyond the yew trees, boots crunched gravel in rhythm, coming straight for them right. A low sound rolled through the cemetery, like stone grinding against stone. The runes pulsed brighter. Myra's baby opened his eyes wide and too aware and stared past Myra's shoulder at the king. Then in a tiny sleepy voice that did not sound like a baby at all, he whispered, "Cold crowned thieves." The vampire king froze. The jasmine slipped from his fingers and landed on the grave like a surrender. His eyes went blank, then flooded with something sharp and old. "That phrase," he whispered, "was her warning word, the one she used when she knew betrayal was standing in the room." Rehook. The fog split near the black yew trees, and a figure in a council mask appeared for one blink, holding a chain that glowed the same color as the queen's runes. The masked figure did not step fully into the lantern light. He stayed where fog and shadow met, just far enough to pretend he wasn't there, close enough to make his presence felt. The chain in his hand glimmered with the same crimson pulse as the queen's runes, rising and falling like a second heartbeat under the earth. Myra felt it before she understood it. Her chest tightened, breath shortening, as if something inside her recognized danger long before her mind caught up. The baby whimpered, tiny fingers curling into her coat, and the frost circle around her boots cracked softly, responding to fear like a living thing. Darius moved instantly. He stepped in front of her without touching her, coat flaring slightly, posture calm but lethal. "Leave," he said to the shadow, voice level, carrying the kind of authority that did not ask for agreement. The figure laughed low and wrong, like someone enjoying a private joke. "So it's true," the voice replied, filtered through the mask. "The tomb woke. I felt it from the river quarter. You always did underestimate how loud grief can be, King." Darius didn't blink. "You were not summoned," he said. "That alone makes this trespass." The chain rattled softly as the figure shifted weight. "Trespass," the voice echoed. "We guard this city while you hide in monuments and memory. That woman broke sacred ground." Myra flinched at the word woman like it erased her name, her life, her fear. She forced her voice out anyway. "I didn't mean to," she said, shaking but standing. "I didn't even know who she was." The masked head tilted. "Lies are easier when you are starving," the figure said pleasantly. "But the seal doesn't lie." The chain lifted slightly, reacting to Myra's locket, tugging toward it like iron to a magnet. The baby cried now, sharp and frightened, and Myra's heart felt like it might tear open. Darius raised one hand, fingers spreading. The air between him and the figure hardened, pressure snapping like ice forming too fast. "You will not test her," he said, and for the first time his voice carried heat. "She is under my protection." The word protection hit Myra strangely. Not comforting, heavy, like a door closing as much as it opened. The masked figure paused, then chuckled. "You hear that?" he said softly to someone unseen. "He's claimed her already." The fog behind him shifted, and Myra realized with a sick drop in her stomach that he wasn't alone. Shapes moved in the mist, still, patient, watching. Darius's jaw tightened. "You should go," he repeated, quieter now. "If the court wants answers, they can come to me." The figure shook his head. "Oh, they will," he said, "but not tonight. Tonight we just wanted to see if the fairy tale breathed." The chain dropped back to the ground with a dull clink. "It does." The figure stepped back, retreating into the fog as easily as he had appeared. "Run while you can," his voice drifted back. "Witnesses don't stay witnesses for long." The fog closed behind him, swallowing the shapes with it. Silence rushed back in, too sudden, too thin. The lanterns flickered, then steadied. Myra realized she had been holding her breath and let it out in a shaky rush. Her baby hiccuped, then settled, exhaustion pulling him back toward sleep. Darius turned to her slowly. His face looked carved from stone now, not blank but strained, like something precious had cracked beneath it. "You see," he said, "they felt you, they will not unfeel you." Myra's hands shook as she pushed damp hair from her face. "Then why didn't you kill him?" she demanded, anger sparking through fear. "You could have, I saw it." Darius met her gaze. "Because killing a messenger starts a war before you understand the battlefield," he replied. "And because if I spill court blood in a cemetery, they gain the right to open this grave. I will not give them that." Myra looked at the tomb, still glowing faintly. "You keep saying this like it's a weapon," she said, "but it's just a grave." Darius shook his head. "It is not a grave," he corrected. "It is a lock." He gestured for her to follow, stepping away from the tomb at last. "Come, we cannot stay here, not now." Myra hesitated. "Where?" she asked. Darius's eyes flicked to the dark city beyond the iron gates. "Somewhere older than their reach," he said, "and safer than your streets." They moved quickly, Darius setting a pace that forced the fog to peel back before them. As they passed the outer gate, Myra glanced back. For a split second she thought she saw a shape kneeling where she had been, hand pressed to the stone, head bowed like someone praying. Then it was gone. The image lodged in her chest anyway, heavy and unresolved. They reached a waiting car, black and silent, engine humming like it knew better than to speak. Darius opened the door for her without ceremony. As Myra climbed in, clutching her baby, she felt something tug inside her head, a memory that was not hers, a woman's voice, calm and sad, whispering a warning she didn't understand yet. Darius slid into the seat opposite her, eyes never leaving her face. "You need to listen to me now," he said. "Everything you think you know about that seal is wrong." Myra swallowed. "Then tell me," she said, "all of it." The car pulled away from the cemetery as bells beneath the ground rang once more, low and distant, like a promise or a threat. The car moved through the sleeping city like it did not belong to it. Streetlights bent away from the windows, reflections sliding off the glass as if refusing to look inside. Myra held her baby close, feeling the slow, steady warmth of his body against her chest, grounding her while her head felt full of noise that was not noise at all. It was pressure, like words lining up behind her eyes, waiting for permission to exist. Darius noticed before she said anything. "It's starting, isn't it?" he asked quietly. Myra nodded, teeth clenched. I keep seeing things, she whispered. Not pictures, feelings, cold stone, blood on white fabric, someone standing behind a curtain holding their breath. Darius leaned back slightly, giving her space, but his voice stayed close. The memory shard is waking, he said. The court's presence near the tomb shook it loose. That seal you carry isn't just proof, it's a container. Myra swallowed hard. Container for what? She asked. Darius looked out the window, jaw tight. For the truth, he replied. The part my queen couldn't speak out loud without signing her own death warrant. The car slowed, turning off the main road into a stretch of land that felt older than the city, where trees grew thick and low and the air smelled like damp earth and iron. Massive gates rose ahead, carved with symbols that did not glow but felt heavy, like they were always watching. As the car passed through, Myra felt a sudden release in her chest, like she had crossed a line the watchers could not follow. Her baby sighed, relaxed, fingers uncurling. "Where are we?" she asked. "A place the court pretends doesn't exist," Darius said, "because admitting it does would mean admitting they are not the highest power." Inside, the manor was not warm, but it was calm. Stone walls, low firelight, no mirrors. Myra noticed that immediately. "Why no mirrors?" she asked, voice shaky. Darius answered without looking at her. "Because reflections remember," he said, "and tonight we don't need any more memory bleeding through than necessary." He led her to a room that felt lived in, not royal. A simple bed, clean blankets, a small cradle already waiting. Myra stared at it, stunned. "You knew I was coming," she said. Darius met her eyes. "I knew the seal would find someone eventually," he replied. "I did not know it would be you." As soon as Myra sat, the pressure in her head spiked. She gasped, clutching the edge of the bed. The room tilted, firelight stretching into long lines. Darius moved instantly, kneeling in front of her, hands hovering but not touching. "Breathe," he said firmly. "Don't fight it, let it pass through." Myra wanted to scream at him, to tell him she didn't ask for this, but the words drowned under a wave of feelings. Grief so sharp it cut. Love so heavy it felt like chains. A woman's voice filled her head, calm even as everything burned. "I chose you because you would survive." Myra sobbed, tears spilling freely now. "She's talking," she whispered. "She knows I'm scared." Darius closed his eyes, pain flickering across his face. "She always did," he said, "even at the end." The memory surged stronger. A chamber drenched in red light, council members standing too still. A ring pressed into trembling hands. "Hide this in living blood. If they kill me, let the truth breathe later." Myra cried out as the vision snapped shut, leaving her shaking and empty. Darius opened his eyes, voice rough. "They didn't just murder her," he said. "They planned it slowly, legally, with votes and smiles." Myra looked up at him, anger burning through the fear. "And you?" she demanded. "Where were you?" The question hit. Darius did not look away. "Blinded," he said. "I trusted the wrong people. I protected her body and left her mind unguarded." He swallowed. "She knew I would react with war if I knew the truth, so she hid it in someone the court would never notice." Myra hugged herself, suddenly understanding the cruelty of it. "She ruined my life," she said bitterly. Darius shook his head. "No," he replied. "She saved it, and mine." Myra laughed weakly, tears streaking her face. "Saved me by making me hunted." Darius's gaze softened but did not break. "Saved you by making you necessary," he said. "They can kill a poor woman. They cannot kill a witness without exposing themselves." A sharp knock echoed through the manor. Darius stiffened. "Already?" he muttered. He stood, moving to the door, voice cold again. "Stay here. Whatever you hear, do not open it." Myra nodded, heart pounding. As Darius left, the baby stirred and opened his eyes, far too alert, staring at the door with focus that made Myra's skin crawl. Then in the quiet, the queen's voice returned, faint but urgent. "Trust no one who kneels beside the throne." Myra's breath caught. Because the only people who ever knelt beside the throne were those the king trusted most. The voice outside the door was smooth, familiar, almost comforting, and that was what made Myra's stomach drop. "You're late," the man said lightly, like this was an ordinary visit and not the middle of the night after a tomb had awakened. Through the thick stone, Myra could hear every word, every breath, sharper now, clearer, as if the queen's memory had tuned her senses. Darius answered in the same calm tone he used with enemies. "This place is sealed. You know that." The man chuckled. "Sealed for strangers," he replied, "not for old friends." Myra pressed a hand to her mouth, heart hammering. Old friends. The queen's warning echoed again, louder this time. Trust no one who kneels beside the throne. She pictured the council chamber from the vision, the still figures, the hands folded too neatly. The door opened with a soft scrape. Darius stepped aside just enough for a tall man to enter, silver hair tied back, posture relaxed, eyes sharp with curiosity. He glanced around the room, taking in the cradle, the low fire, the woman sitting rigid on the bed. His gaze lingered on Myra, not greedy, not kind, just assessing. "So this is her," he said. "The witness." Darius's shoulders tensed. "You should not have said that name," he warned. The man smiled faintly. "Why not? The court already whispers it." The tomb's pulse traveled fast. He stepped closer, ignoring the invisible boundary Darius placed with his presence. Myra felt her locket heat against her skin, a warning burn. The baby whimpered, eyes locking onto the stranger with unsettling focus. The man noticed and raised a brow. "Interesting," he murmured. "Even the child reacts." "Enough," Darius snapped. "Why are you here, Aurelian?" The name hit Myra like ice. Aurelian, she knew it without knowing how. The queen's voice supplied the memory, the trusted one, the gentle one, the knife behind the smile. Aurelian spread his hands. "To help," he said smoothly. "The court is frightened. They want answers. I told them you would handle it." His eyes flicked to Myra again. "But now I see the problem. You've brought the spark into your own house." Myra found her voice thin but steady. "I didn't ask for this," she said. Aurelian looked at her fully now, expression almost pitying. "None of us ever do," he replied. "But power doesn't wait for consent." He took another step. The air thickened, pressure building like a storm about to break. Darius moved, placing himself fully between them. "You will leave," he said. "Now." Aurelian sighed, disappointment etched briefly across his face. "You're making the same mistake again," he said softly. "Choosing the living over the crown." His eyes hardened. "That didn't end well last time." The queen's memory surged, pain flaring so sharp Myra cried out, clutching her head. Images slammed through her, Aurelian's hand tightening on a ring, a vote cast in silence, a door closing while blood soaked white silk. Darius turned, alarm flashing. "Myra." She looked up, tears streaming, rage breaking through fear. "He knew," she said, pointing at Aurelian. "He was there." Aurelian froze, mask slipping for half a second. That was all Darius needed. The room darkened, shadows bending toward the king like they had been waiting for permission. "You will leave," Darius repeated, voice no longer calm. "And if the court touches her, I will burn every law you hide behind." Aurelian stepped back slowly, composure returning. "Think carefully," he warned. "If you protect her, you declare her central. If she dies quietly, this ends." His gaze slid to the baby. So many ways for accidents. Myra pulled the child closer, a growl tearing from her throat that did not sound human at all. The locket flared, runes burning through her clothes, light flooding the room. Aurelian shielded his eyes, startled. "It's progressing already," he muttered. Darius moved like a blade drawn too fast to see. In a blink, Aurelian was pinned against the wall, shadows binding his limbs. Darius's face was inches from his, fury cold and precise. "You will never threaten a child in my presence again," he said. "Go back to the court. Tell them the witness is under my protection." He leaned closer. "And tell them the queen is no longer silent." Aurelian vanished in a rush of displaced air, leaving the room ringing with absence. The shadows withdrew. Silence crashed back in, heavy and fragile. Darius turned to Myra, breath uneven. "We can't stay hidden anymore," he said. "They'll move openly now." Myra wiped her face, voice shaking but resolved. "Then stop hiding me," she said. "Teach me what she left behind." Darius looked at her for a long moment, then nodded once. "Very well," he said. "But know this, when the truth surfaces, the city will bleed." Myra looked down at her sleeping child, then back up. "It already did," she replied. Morning did not arrive gently. It crept in like a thief, pale light pressing against the manor windows without warmth, without promise. Myra had not slept. Every time she closed her eyes, the queen's memories shifted, lining up like pieces of a puzzle that refused to stay still. Darius stood at the far end of the chamber, reading sigils carved into the stone wall, his expression unreadable. He looked like a king again now, not the man who had knelt in grief hours earlier. "The first traitor was not Aurelian," he said suddenly, voice flat. Myra looked up sharply. "Then who?" she asked. Darius turned, eyes dark. "Someone closer," he replied. "Someone who helped raise the court itself." The memory surged without warning. Myra gasped as the room blurred, stone melting into candlelight, silk banners hanging heavy with dust. She saw a council chamber, circular, ancient, older than Darius's reign, 12 seats, only 11 filled. The queen stood alone in the center, calm, composed, even as danger pressed in. A man approached her, bowing deeply, hand over heart. He wore the sigil of the first advisor, the one who whispered strategy, the one who shaped laws. The one Darius trusted with his life. "You should not have trusted him," Myra whispered aloud, tears sliding down her face. Darius closed his eyes. "I did," he said, "and she knew I would." Myra stood slowly, legs unsteady but resolved. "That's why she hid it in me," she said. "Not because I was special, because I was invisible." Darius opened his eyes, something like respect flickering there. "Yes," he replied, "and because you would not be tempted by power, that makes you dangerous." The word landed heavy but not cruel, real. A horn sounded in the distance, low and resonant, vibrating through the stone floor. Darius stiffened. "They're calling an early council," he said. "They felt the memory unlock." Myra's heart raced. "What happens now?" she asked. Darius studied her for a long moment, then answered honestly. "Now they test you," he said. "Not with kindness, with fear." As if summoned by his words, the air shifted. The fire dimmed. A presence pressed against the manor walls, probing, searching. Myra clutched the locket as it heated again, not burning this time, but steady, anchoring. The queen's voice rose clear and firm in her mind. "Do not kneel. Witnesses stand." Myra straightened her spine, breathing through the fear. "Then take me to them," she said. "Not as bait, as proof." Darius's jaw tightened. "If you walk into that chamber," he warned, "they will never let you leave unchanged." Myra met his gaze without flinching. "I've never left anywhere unchanged," she replied. For the first time, a faint smile touched Darius's lips. Not joy, pride. "Very well," he said. "But understand this, once the court sees you, there is no hiding again." They prepared quickly. No crowns, no ceremony, just truth wrapped in control. As they moved through the corridors, Myra felt eyes on her from behind walls, from beneath floors. The baby slept peacefully, unaware of the storm gathering around his existence. At the threshold of the council hall, Darius paused. "One last thing," he said quietly. "If they offer you safety in exchange for silence, do not accept." Myra nodded. "I won't," she said, "because silence is how she died." The doors began to open, light spilling out, voices rising in controlled chaos. Myra took a breath, stepped forward, and felt the queen's memory settle inside her like armor. The council chamber was larger than Myra expected, carved deep into black stone, its ceiling disappearing into shadow. 12 seats formed a perfect circle, each throne etched with symbols older than language, older than mercy. Torches burned blue along the walls, their flames steady, unnatural, watching. The moment Myra stepped inside, every sound dropped. Conversations died mid-breath. Power shifted, subtle but sharp, like a blade turning in the dark. She felt it hit her chest, testing, measuring. The baby stirred, eyes opening wide, far too aware, and a low murmur rippled through the chamber. "So," a voice said smoothly, breaking the silence. "The ghost finally brings us a body." Myra's heart stuttered. She knew that voice. She hadn't heard it in years, but fear remembered before her mind did. From one of the lower seats, a man leaned forward, fingers laced, smile thin and familiar. Her uncle. The man who had sold her excuses instead of protection. The man who had told her to stay quiet, stay small, stay grateful. "I wondered how long you'd survive," he continued, eyes flicking to the baby. "Looks like you learned to cling." Myra's hands shook, but she didn't look away. Darius stiffened beside her, surprise flashing for a split second before control snapped back. You know her, he said coldly. The uncle bowed his head slightly. Of course, he replied. She was nothing special, just persistent. Laughter whispered through the chamber, cruel and curious. Myra felt heat rise in her chest, not rage, but clarity. The queen's voice slid through her mind like a blade finding its mark. Speak now. She's lying, Myra said, voice steady despite the pounding in her ears. All of you are. The laughter stopped. She took another step forward, the locket burning bright beneath her skin. You didn't fear the queen because she was weak, she said. You feared her because she remembered. Murmurs erupted, seats shifted, eyes narrowed. The first advisor leaned forward, interest sharp. Careful, he warned. Witnesses are not immune to judgment. Myra lifted her chin. I'm not here for immunity, she said. I'm here because she left something with me. The torches flared as the locket slipped free, hovering in the air between her hands, glowing crimson. Symbols spilled out, projected onto the stone floor like living ink. Gasps echoed. Ancient words filled the chamber, spoken in the queen's voice, layered over Myra's own. Names, dates, votes cast in secret. The moment of betrayal replayed in light and sound. The uncle stumbled back, face draining of color. This is a trick, he snapped. She's been manipulated. Darius spoke then, voice cutting through the chaos. No, he said, she has been trusted. He stepped forward, shadows rising behind him, responding to his fury. And so was I once. The chamber shook as power surged, not violent yet, but undeniable. Myra felt it too, the weight of what she carried finally seen, finally acknowledged. The queen's memory settled, complete now, no longer fragmented. She understood at last. This was never about returning a queen. It was about ending a lie. The first advisor rose slowly, applause echoing softly, mockery thinly veiled. Impressive, he said, but truth alone does not rule kingdoms. His gaze dropped to the child. Blood does. The baby laughed suddenly, a clear, sharp sound that rang through the hall. Every torch guttered. Myra's breath caught as she felt a pulse pass from the child into the stone itself. Silence crashed down, heavy and absolute. The chamber did not explode into chaos the way Myra expected. It froze instead. Every noble, every advisor, every ancient creature sitting on those thrones felt it at the same time. The shift. Not power rising. Authority moving. The baby's laugh faded into silence, but the echo stayed, vibrating through the stone floor, through the bones of the hall itself. Blue flames trembled. Symbols along the walls rearranged, lines rewriting themselves like history correcting a lie. Myra felt weak and strong at once, like something old had finally taken its proper shape inside her chest. The first advisor's smile cracked, just slightly. Enough. That is not possible, he said too quickly. The child is human. Darius didn't look at him. His eyes were fixed on the floor where the sigils now pulsed in rhythm with the baby's breath. No, the king said quietly. The child is recognized. The word hit the chamber like a verdict. Recognized meant ancient law, older than crowns, older than councils. Myra clutched the baby tighter, fear finally catching up to awe. What does that mean? She whispered to Darius. He answered without turning. It means they can no longer erase what they see, he said. Only decide how much blood they're willing to spill to stop it. That did it. Chairs scraped back. Voices rose. Accusations flew like knives. The uncle shouted first, desperation breaking through his control. This is her fault, he barked, pointing at Myra. She brought this curse here. Kill her and it ends. Several heads turned, calculating. Myra felt it the moment when survival was weighed against conscience. The queen's voice returned, calm and steady. This is where they fail. Myra lifted her chin. You can't kill me, she said, surprising herself with how strong her voice sounded. Not without proving everything she left behind. The first advisor's eyes narrowed. We don't need proof, he replied coldly. We need stability. Darius finally turned to face him. You confuse silence with stability, he said. My queen died because of that confusion. The shadows behind him stretched, forming a dark crown that hovered just above his head, not worn but earned. You want control, he continued. You always have, and now you're afraid because control no longer belongs to you. The first advisor's gaze dropped to the child again, something like panic flashing through his composure. "That thing will fracture the courts," he said. "Other realms will feel it. Other kings will come." Darius nodded once. "Good," he replied. "Let them." Myra felt a sudden pull, sharp and insistent, like the queen grabbing her hand one last time. Images flooded her, maps, bloodlines, hidden paths beneath the city, names scratched out of history. She gasped, knees buckling. Darius caught her instantly, steadying her without hesitation. "Easy," he murmured. "It's finishing." She clung to him, shaking. "She's done," Myra whispered. "She gave me everything." The torches dimmed. The sigils faded, settling into the stone like scars. The baby yawned, power quieting as quickly as it had risen. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the first advisor spoke, voice measured, dangerous. "You think this ends with truth," he said. "But truth starts wars." Darius met his gaze, unflinching. "Then stop pretending you're afraid of war," he replied. Myra realized then that there was no going back. No hiding. No small life waiting at the edge of the city. Whatever she had been before ended the moment the tomb recognized her. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of creatures who had ruled from shadows for centuries. "She trusted me," Myra said softly. "Not because I was strong, because I would stand when you told me to kneel." The first advisor sat back slowly, lips thinning. "Very well," he said. "Let the realms hear it." The horn sounded again, deeper this time, not from within the city but from far beyond its walls, a call that rolled across land and stone like thunder that hadn't learned to fade. The council chamber vibrated, dust falling from the ceiling as if the building itself understood what that sound meant. Darius did not move. He simply listened, eyes distant, calculating. "That's the Northern Crown," he said finally. He wouldn't answer a rumor, only a certainty. Myra's stomach dropped. "So it's real now," she whispered. "The war." Darius looked at her, something grim and honest in his gaze. "It was always real," he said. "We just pretended it wasn't happening to keep our hands clean." The first advisor rose slowly, smoothing his robes like a man preparing for a long performance. "Then the council must respond," he announced. "We will convene the outer houses, reinforce the borders, contain the witness." The word witness landed wrong now, too small for what Myra had become. She felt it too. The queen's presence was quieter, settled, but her intent remained sharp. "Do not let them turn you into an object again." Myra took a step forward before she could second-guess herself. "I'm not staying here," she said. Head snapped toward her. "You don't get to lock me in a chamber and call it protection." Darius's brows drew together. "This isn't the time." "It is," Myra cut in, voice firm, "because this is how it starts. You decide what's best, you hide things, people die quietly." The words hit harder than she intended. The room stilled. Darius studied her, searching her face, then exhaled slowly. "You're right," he said. "And that's why they'll try to kill you before dawn." As if summoned by the truth, the chamber doors boomed open. A runner stumbled in, breathless, eyes wide with terror. "My king," he gasped. "The outer ward has been breached, not an army, a blade." The first advisor's mouth twitched. "Assassins already," he murmured. "How efficient." Darius's gaze snapped to him. "You knew," he said flatly. The advisor did not deny it. "I expected it," he corrected. "Fear moves faster than law." The lights dimmed. Shadows crept along the walls, no longer obedient. Myra clutched her child as the baby stirred, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She felt something stir in him again, protective, instinctive. "They're here for him too, aren't they?" she asked quietly. Darius nodded. "They think killing the key will lock the door forever," he said. "They're wrong." Steel rang somewhere deep in the halls. A scream cut short. The chamber erupted into motion. Guards poured in. Orders shouted. The first advisor stepped back, retreating toward a hidden exit, face composed. "We will discuss succession when the dust settles," he said smoothly. "If there is anything left to discuss." He vanished into shadow, leaving chaos behind him like a gift. Darius turned to Myra, urgency sharp now. "You have to leave," he said. "Not hide, move." Myra shook her head. "I'm not running blindly," she replied. "Tell me where to go." Darius hesitated for half a second, then made a decision that cracked something old inside him. "The Queen's path," he said, "the one she never finished." They moved fast through passages that didn't exist on any map, the manor bending around them, responding to the child's presence like a living thing. Myra felt it, doors opening before touch, walls softening, the city's bones shifting. She planned this, Myra realized. She planned me. Darius nodded grimly. She planned for betrayal, he said. Better than I ever did. They reached a narrow bridge suspended over darkness, ancient runes glowing faintly along its edge. Beyond it lay a gate, sealed, silent, patient. Darius stopped. "This is as far as I go," he said. Myra's heart slammed. "What? If I cross," he explained, "the council will follow my shadow. You need time, space, truth without my name attached." He looked at the baby, then back at her. "They won't follow a woman they underestimated." Myra swallowed hard. "And you?" she asked. Darius straightened, king again, power coiling tight. "I'll give them something else to chase," he said. The first blade struck the stone behind them, embedding deep with a scream of metal. Figures poured from the shadows, fast and silent. Darius turned, shadows roaring to life around him. "Go," he commanded. Myra hesitated only a heartbeat, then ran, clutching her child as the gate before her began to open on its own. The gate closed behind Myra with a sound that felt less like stone and more like a heartbeat sealing shut. On the other side, the world changed. The air was warmer, older, heavy with memory. She stood in a vast hidden valley carved beneath the kingdom itself, a place that had never known war because it had never been found. Ancient trees bent low, their silver leaves whispering as if they recognized her. The Queen's path, not a refuge, a proving ground. Myra felt the weight of it settle in her chest, not fear but responsibility. The child in her arms opened his eyes fully now, calm, alert, watching the world as if it already belonged to him. She walked until the ground dipped and revealed a circle of standing stones. At the center, a pool of dark water reflected not her face but moments, fragments of the Queen's life. Love, betrayal, blood on marble, the final choice. Myra understood then. The Queen had never wanted to return. Resurrection would have restarted the war. A memory was safer than a body, a witness safer than a ruler. Myra knelt, tears falling silently, not for the Queen but for the cost of wisdom. "I'll finish it," she whispered. "Not as you, as me." The water stilled, accepting the vow. Above ground, the city burned with movement. Darius tore through the assassins like a living storm, not raging, not wild, but controlled and surgical. He let the council see him bleed, let them think he was cornered. When the first advisor finally stepped forward, blade hidden in silk, Darius was ready. "You chose fear over loyalty," Darius said calmly as he disarmed him. "She chose truth." The advisor smiled bitterly. "And that is why you will lose her." Darius's reply was quiet and final. "No, that's why she'll outlive us all." By dawn, the narrative had changed. The council fractured. The Northern Crown withdrew, uncertain. Rumors spread, not of a returned queen, but of a living legacy hidden beyond reach. Darius stood alone on the battlements as the sun rose, not victorious but resolute. He had chosen not to reclaim the past, but to protect the future even if it meant standing alone. Far below in the hidden valley, Myra built a life from silence and strength. She was no longer running. She learned the stones, the old laws, the language of power that did not shout. Her child grew fast, not as a weapon, but as a bridge. When he laughed, the valley listened. When he slept, the shadows rested. Years later, when the world was ready, they would return, not to claim a throne, but to end the cycle that demanded blood to function. The story did not end with a crown or a kiss or a battlefield soaked in victory. It ended with choice. A woman choosing not to be a vessel for the dead, a king choosing restraint over control, and a child born not to rule through fear but to break it. If this story pulled you in, if you felt the tension, the sacrifice, the quiet power behind the shadows, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay with Vampire Verse for more stories where darkness doesn't win easily, and humanity always fights back. Final question. Do you think the king was right to let her go, Yes or no?